Awesome.
Well, hey,
Hey,
How's it going?
what, mate, what a time to be alive.
yes, it is.
Just awkward silences all around. That's how we roll here at
That's about how we feel.
those are the guys' industries. No, we're not that. We're not called that. I take that back. As soon as I said it, I was like, that's too much, too far, too far. Okay,
Hey, Morrow.
we've got one. He's our regular. He's our moral support. It's in the name.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
in the name.
It's good value.
Oh,
It's good value.
we've got the good jokes. Yep.
We've got all the jokes, man. Okay. So this week we're doing another box from L Vulnhub. Let me. Oh man, where did I have it open? Oh, Genius Reese closed it. Half a sec. This is my rich and deep preparedness. Okay. Oh, love you. There's a third one of us now. We've spawned.
Feel about that.
Yeah, there's. You may hear the dulcet tones of an absolute South African machine. Well, I don't know if you see yourself as South African or Kiwi.
Always South African. Always.
Just like Kiwi do the call, mate.
Mm.
Kia ora, can't change who I am. Okay. So this week we're doing election. So if you go to our website, it's so cool that I keep forgetting that we did this. We've got a right up there. Election is available on Vulnhub.
Yep.
So if we pop over to Vulnhub, so I'm just in the old web browser.
I can't remember the command to update the bot.
I'm
It's
just
fine.
I'm just gonna quickly check that everything is looking hunky dory on the old stream. Yep, everything is there. Sweet. Pretty straightforward. Download it. It is a VirtualBox OVA file. You can import it into VMware. It does kick up a bit of a I don't like this, but you can just go ignore and it'll load up just fine. So
Yeah.
that's what I've done. So let's get into it. So close that and that. And we are going to start with something that Mark does that I quite like the idea of. Is we are going to create a environment variable for our shell session with the IP address of our target, just because this makes it a lot easier to use later on as we keep going. So that's mine. Will vary depending on your specific makeup and setup, but this should allow you to copy paste stuff. Technically, Mark's on target IP. I'm lazy. Seconds of 2 clicks. So
I did it because I like copy paste.
So we're going to do our usual first step. We are going to, I hope I get the command right. SV. We are going to run our nmap scan as we always do. Nmap. So safe scripts, common ports. We're outputting to a file called nmap, and then we just leave nmap running. And if you look at that, we've got port 80 and port 22. So SSH and HTTP.
Our website.
So HTTP means we can go a lug of that. And obviously, we just get the Ubuntu default page. So obviously, this thing's buried a bit deeper in the directory structure, which we will get to presently. But it's just interesting to note that when you're setting up a web server, and if you're configuring it so that it might be, I don't know, your domain name / blog or something, make sure you don't have anything sitting just at the top level like this, because it can be a handy. I mean, this isn't massively egregious, But it's Apache on Ubuntu, and you might be able to make certain assumptions based on that. Error pages that go down to specific versions are even worse from time to time. Just a handy side tip, though. You want to not leak as much information as possible. Okay, so this means we're going to have to start go bustering. So what we're going to do is this bad boy. So we're going to go. Let me just adjust this for the fact that I called my variable something different, and that will shit me for the rest of this.
Yep.
So
You have it.
we're just using one of the standard word lists that come with Kali. I have other word lists in a different place from sec lists, but this should be universal to all Kali instances, whereas mine I got from Git and stuck in some random directory. So we'll just run with this. And it tells me that that doesn't exist because of whatever. Okay, so I'll just have to find it myself. So I'll go to tools, and then what have I got? Sec lists. And then in sec lists, we have probably discovery is going to be good for us. And then in discovery, it's going to be web content.
Yep.
And then in web content, it's going to be directory list, because sec list is basically the same thing as what Kali comes with. Okay, so directory list 2.3 medium. There we go. Would you look at that? And
Same
already,
list.
what was that?
It's the same list, yeah.
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 It should be the same list. It's just in a different place and in a different folder structure.
Yeah, and I think my commands that I wrote up.
Yeah, I think user
Cut off.
share words list dirbuster is just a handful of, or a subset of the sec lists.
It does
Only-
have it.
I'll be honest,
The commands.
it's
Sorry.
all the useful ones. Let's be honest. A lot of the sec list stuff's very niche.
Yep.
Anyway, so what have we found? We will have found /JavaScript, /election. That's why it's going. Okay, if I just do this, it should make it a little bit clearer. Nope. Once it's rendered, it's rendered. And PHP myadmin. So it's an interesting one to just have. Well, I suppose most shared web hosts, PHP myadmin will show up. Which I guess may be in the narrative of what they're trying to set up here. Okay, so we've got /JavaScript and /election. So if I go back to the web browser, /election. As you can see in my history, I've done this one before. Okay, so a web-based election system, which, okay. And I think this is a legitimate piece of software, too. Eyebrow raising. I mean, given the debate around whether elections should be digital or not, we live in a country where elections are still primarily done basically purely through paper, which has its benefits.
Hey, Copesy, we haven't done Hack the Box for quite a while. We sort of took a break for a bit, and then now we've moved to Vulnhub. So
Maybe
I think,
we might go back there at some point. It was just the keeping up with the oops.
Was
go on
it?
Twitch. Keeping up with the subscription when we were being too lazy because for the
Yeah.
better part of a year we didn't do any streaming.
I think when we were actively doing it, it was the second highest one. Is it Hacker Elite or something? Is like the second highest one?
Yeah, I think you'd gotten to Hacker Elite. I was
Yeah,
not. I was a few behind you.
something like that. But yeah, we haven't done Hack the Box for quite a while. We are thinking of going back there, but we're having a lot of fun with the Vulnhub stuff. And we can just kind of do them at our own pace and release them at our own pace. We don't have to wait for them to be retired or anything like that. So it's just kind of working for us at the moment.
All right. So what we are now going to do is we're going to do a second Go Buster. So I think we might have talked about this the last stream we did, which was 3 weeks ago. This is what happens when you all have like professional lives in the middle of a series of lockdowns. It's just you just kind of forget to do stuff. Anyway, so we're gonna now go buster or just brute force the election directory to see what shows up. So remembering that GoBuster doesn't really recurse through directories, you just give it a directory and it will look in it. Really, it's just doing string substitution and web requests. So we've got a whole bunch of things: media, themes, data, admin, liblanguages.js. So the most immediately interesting looking thing is /admin. So if we hit up /admin, we get the admin's ID. So we don't really go anywhere with that. So if we go back here, and I think what I missed out on was a key step, which is we're going to go back to here, and we are going to look for some useful extensions. That'll be enough. This is what happens when I go off script and I reuse my previous one, and I just go, yeah, we'll just do that. So with GoBuster, you can search for extensions. So basically, again, in its string substitution and combination magic, it'll just go, yeah, I'll try a bunch of stuff, and we'll give the results whatever comes back. So we get card.php. That's me failing to copy paste. So there's always that. If we go back to card.php, we just get a bunch of binary, don't we? Well, I would say that looks like binary. Most people
That
probably
looks like
would.
some binary, yep.
Yeah. This is a little bit CTF-y. I don't think I've ever seen someone try and do this, but we go binary to ASCII converter.
What do you mean? You don't speak binary just in the everyday?
Well, I just more mean like, as a method of maybe you stumble across a file where there's been some encoding mishaps and it reads as hex. I don't know, where something's tried to read the hex for what it is rather than the characters it represents. But I haven't really ever seen binary pop up. So that's not what I wanted. Let's try this again. Convert. So we've tried converting a binary, and all we do is we just get more binary. But look, it's different. Not by much, but it's a little bit different. So if we copy this and paste, and we convert it again, if I've done this correctly, which I haven't.
Hey, Kiwi.
Let me try this.
We're back. We're streaming again.
All right, let's try this again, and let's not mess it up this time. So we go convert, and then we just get more binary, and then we copy, and then we go back, and we paste, and we go convert again. And then it should just be again. Far out. Okay.
Yeah, what's happening with this?
Yeah, it should just be double binary when we did it.
I used a different site, so like,
yeah, I'm going to find a better site.
Use the one that I'll send you a link.
Yeah.
It's the GCHQ
Actually,
Cybershift.
that tells me what was going wrong.
Oh no.
The wrong thing was in my clipboard. Okay, let's copy link. Well, it doesn't actually show me really what was going on because this was in my clipboard too. Okay, let's do it like this. Put in our... okay, so we are going to do from binary.
If you search at the top, there's a
Yeah.
operations. Yeah.
Sweet. So if we do that, and then because it's just double binary.
You haven't copied the whole binary. I think you missed part of it on the copy.
That'll do it. So this is the challenge with binary, right? You copy paste it wrong, and it'll go, I can't understand any of this, and you just get garbage. Okay.
Yep.
Now that I've used a decent binary converter, we get the password or the user ID and the password, which means if we go back to our host, 63/election/admin, 1234, next. And our password is that. Sweet, we're in. But this isn't where we want to be. I mean, we've just got admin for some random app. Good jumping off ground, but not necessarily that useful in the short term. So it's all pretty straightforward. What do we got? We've got like setting stuff, admins, students for an election system, election. Oh, maybe this is like some sort of student governance body system.
Student elections, yeah, could be that.
Yeah. I don't know. I briefly dabbled in the whole student union thing at university.
I was homeschooled, so I really can't say
There
much.
was at our university, because Jake and I went to the same university, there was one that was basically, so it had two campuses, and one of the campuses was the last campus in New South Wales. I'm not going to name it because I don't want to give away too much of where I used to live, but I suppose if you Google it, you'll find it. But it was the last campus in New South Wales to have independent student unions, and it had tons of them. The rest of the state had one union. This had like 10 because it was the last place different ones could exist. And I joined one that was just all about drinking because, you know, that student union life, I guess. Okay. So anyway, right, let's continue onwards. So in settings, I think, where is it? Settings, system info. So I'm running off of, we've done this before. So thanks to Mark for his solid work. He did most of this box. I just get the joy of presenting it. So logging, this is interesting. I love it when you can view logs. Let's just open it with whatever it lets us open it with. Okay, so this is intriguing. Assign password for the user Love. Love added candidate Love. Love has been logged in from an unknown IP and an unknown IP. But this is interesting, right? That the password.
Plain text passwords in logs.
I don't actually think this app does this. Maybe
I
it
doubt
does.
it does.
No,
Well, yeah,
but
man.
they might have just edited this file directly on the server. Either way, don't log passwords. It's actually really difficult when you are trying to upgrade like hashes. So switching from MD5 to something better, or even SHA-256 to a proper key stretch like password hash. And you've got to temporarily store the existing password they just logged in with to hash it, and then actually it's not that hard if you do it right, but it's an aside that comes up from time to time. Anyway, so we've got some creds for the box. So at this point, being the people that we are, if you've got creds, and I'll just leave this here in the little note app. If you've got creds, you might as well see what they're good for. And one of the first places, if I type properly, one of the first places to go looking is SSH, and we're in. So we've only got user. I think if we go to the desktop, we get user.txt. No need to look in there, it's just a hash. But, you know, in actual CTFs, you'll have a user token to get and then a root token. So this is fun. So now from here, we can go and keep following. So we've got two paths forward we can take. We can either keep following this thread or park this and go back to looking horizontally, kind of back at the level of all the web apps and stuff. For expediency, we're going to keep following the thread. Even when I do this sort of thing, I tend to keep following the thread until I hit a dead end, and then you go back and you go, am I missing something from a previous step? Or was there another thing I was meant to do that kind of meets up with where I've gotten to help me progress? In this case, we can just keep pushing forwards. So from here, the first and most obvious thing to do is just let's do a sudo -l and the password, which should still be my clipboard. Okay. Also, handy tip: Control-Shift-V to copy paste in terminals. Definitely in Kali, and I think Ubuntu Debian, a bunch of other stuff. Quite useful. And Control-Shift-C to copy. Okay. So anyway, we can't run sudo, which is a bit of a bummer. So now let's have a bit of a look at the password file. I think we work out nothing really stands out there. There's a few things, because it's been a while since I've looked in depth at like Linux stuff, whoopsie and kernoops, and a few things initially made me Google a few things when I was briefly looking at this box. But that's all standard stuff. But it's good to start learning what looks normal versus what looks odd. So normally things with user IDs, so this here is the user ID and this is a group ID, if I've done that correctly, Jake, is anything under 1,000 tends to be a built-in user. And anything over, that's if you're pen testing. If you're doing threat hunting, solid bad guys would probably use user IDs under 1,000 to try and like look less obvious and give things vague service sounding names. All right, so there was nothing there. If we start looking around, already done desktop. So let's have a look at just their profile folder, bash history. I reckon it'll have nothing in it. Yeah, nothing except the command to remove bash history, which is pretty standard for these things. Bash history is like one of those double-edged swords. It's what lets you do this whole going up and down thing, and doing that. You can route it to dev null, so I think it only exists. So your history only exists for as long as you got a session running. In this case, though, everything I'm doing is getting logged to. Oh no, it's not, because it would have shown up when I catted it earlier. Either way, it's what drives a lot of that stuff, including being able to go like that and an exclamation mark and then a line from your history file to replay that particular command. Little handy thing there, but they've got it disabled here. So if we keep going, just looking at what we have to do next. So we do see a sudo as admin successful file as well, which means at one stage this account had sudo access, which is a little bit of a red herring because you'll chase that one for a while. However, this is intriguing. Servview doesn't look like it's normal on Linux. Let's say, as in, it's not a default. It's not a default part of the thing, which is
Moral with the raid of 14 people.
Oh wow! Cheers. Welcome to our fantastical stream about.
Welcome to learning how to hacks.
Yeah. Okay, so anyway, that'll come up later. The servview tray. For now, though, the final thing we're going to check is if anything exists in the .ssh directory, of which nothing does. So the dot and the double dot are literally just the current directory and the parent directory. Linux is weird how it likes to say those are files returning results. So now we're going to go and start looking for sticky bits. So sticky bits are, oh man, you kind of have to go back a ways in terms of Unix history, but there was a need if you were just a normal user, and the admin was sick of you going, hey, can you edit this file for me for this app because I don't have permissions to it because you need to be root. they could write something that would... Oh, getting a little notification from...
Lucky with the follow.
Yeah, cheers.
Ready with the follow.
Oh, and another one.
And 0.
Denial of service attack through
That's it.
notifications. But I can mute it. Okay. So Jake, you keep an eye on those and call them out when they happen.
Okay.
But that way I
There's
don't
one.
have that way I don't have to be like, I live in an apartment building and like sometimes the fire alarms go off and it's like that kind of level of shell shock of what's that?
And Sass with the follow.
Anyway, so sticky bits. So it's like sudo these days, where you want to allow someone to run a command as an admin without giving them full admin privileges. Sticky bits were kind of an attempt to do that. So you would have a binary and you would set the sticky bit as the admin, and that app, whenever it was run by someone else, would run as you. So you could write a very specific app to, I don't know, turn on and off the network interface or something like that, that anyone could run, or specific users that had access to it could run without needing to be root. Very brute force way to solve the problem. And apps that were fairly arbitrary, like Vim, which is a text editor, and I don't know what else is coming to mind, copy, move, whatever. If you stuck the sticky bit on those, it would allow any user to do a lot of bad things. These days, so one of the weird things about sticky bits, and it's the 4 in the permissions thing here, is that the sticky bit might be set on the app, but the app itself has to change its user ID. So that's why they're called Seward binaries. So modern apps like Vim, even if you set the sticky bit on them, they don't do anything because they don't try and elevate to root. Anyway, that was a whole poorly worded history lesson in how sticky bits and admin used to happen on Unix. But they still exist. So this is a handy search string to find them on a file system. So the find command, we're looking in root. We want to look for things with permissions of, with the sticky bit set, which is the 4. The 3 zeros just mean that can be set to anything. We don't really care. That just routes all of the errors. So there's going to be tons of files we can't read that only root has access to. And so that we don't get our bash shell filled with errors, that just routes all of the errors to somewhere where we don't have to see them. And then I think for each of those, we're doing the ls-la to get all the permissions on the file.
Just for context, Ready, we are doing a deliberately vulnerable VM from Vulnhub, basically to practice pen testing and hacking and that sort of thing. So that's what we're learning.
Yeah, we all work in InfoSec or cybersecurity or whatever you want to call it, and this is just us. We go through and learn, and we explain stuff as we learn. Although we have kind of gone back to, for the better part of a year, we weren't doing anything. So we're just getting back into things. So we're starting off a little bit easier and working our way up.
Yeah. And Trogs, thanks for the late raid call.
Okay. So what we've got is all of these are binaries with a sticky bit set. Most of them are pretty straightforward. We can't do anything with them. They've been designed with the sticky bit in mind, so they're fairly secure, but there should be this one, which is funny. So this is where the magic of Mark comes in. So again, Mark is that dulcet South African voice you hear from time to time. So this is not a standard part of Linux. There's a whole convention around the way the directories are laid out in Linux that I think these days has been lost to time. But user local would tend to be user installed stuff historically, which was what Mark had said initially made him raise an eyebrow. This is the same as that config file we saw earlier for the servu tray. So this is obviously something. So if we do a quick Google for servu, and we wait for Google to load. Hello, Google. Wait, no, I shouldn't say that, because what it'll do is it'll It'll trigger.
You want to do it, and then you just say Alexa as well, and just get all of them responding.
So it looks like it might be this. So we wait for it to load. So then there's the searching around for what could be what we're looking for. Also,
Here we go. Kiwi's onto it.
Yeah.
When I initially Googled and got ServView and I saw the SolarWinds, that
Well,
really
That's
raised
it.
the eyebrow.
There's a name that as soon as you see it in recent times, you start raising eyebrows for vulnerabilities.
I was playing up the mystery of it a little bit. I do know what it is. Okay, so that was my bad. I meant to ls. This is what happens when you copy paste. And or just type. You know what? I just can't even. Oh gosh, there's no e. You're in for a treat today.
One of them days.
Okay, so we got a bunch of stuff that's in there, and it is probably related. Yeah, SolarWinds ServView. There we go. And so SolarWinds, for those who don't know, massive supply chain hack. So SolarWinds, was it their update server that got compromised? And someone just, it was where you could manually go and download updates or something like that. And
Yeah, it was an update server.
Yeah, they maybe altered some of the binaries that you could download or added their own that people downloaded, and they had deliberate vulnerabilities in the backdoors. So people install this stuff all over the world, and then the people who originally did it have their choice of companies to go after. So classic supply chain compromise, which is the idea that if you think about food, for example, a piece of bread on your table, it probably came from a bakery. That bakery got its wheat from somewhere, and that farm used tractors from somewhere else. That's a supply chain. In IT, those same things exist where you might be buying software. So I think Microsoft was caught up in this. You use a Microsoft operating system. Microsoft would use SolarWinds for their own internal. I think it's like logging and monitoring, and a bunch of other stuff that they do. And so they use that product. And if that product gets compromised, Microsoft could get compromised. If Microsoft gets compromised, you get compromised. Welcome to why the industry we work in exists. Because this is it everywhere. It's the reality is the only reason why everyone doesn't get hacked all the time is there's just too many places to get hacked, and most places don't have tons and tons and tons of value. So you kind of don't get hacked because someone else is a better opportunity, but
Because no one's tried yet.
Yeah. But as more and more people turn to alternative means of income, either as developing nations get more technically advanced or as already developed nations get poorer, people turn to this stuff to make money and more risk and just be more careful. Anyway, that was a whole lecture. Okay, so, right. Anyway, this is where we're at. So there's a log file in here. So let's have a look at that log file. So what we're going to do to make life easier, we're just going to cd in. And where are we? Where's the log file? Startup log. Nope. It's the joy of autocomplete. So use startup log. Run a cat. And we find that we get the version, which is always useful. SolarWinds Worldwide LLC, which we already know. Something about database libraries.
Connie, thanks for the host.
What else we got? Yeah.
I think that's everything in that.
Running beyond trial period. So they've obviously all they've done is installed it and run it once for whatever reason. Anyway, so what we're going to do is we've probably got our in. So we're probably nearing the end game. Because this, if it's SolarWinds, it's probably got vulnerabilities. So what we're going to do is on Kali, handy tool called search exploit, and it searches. If I can type search exploit properly,
You're still in the SSH.
So the problem is I'm still on the.
I did the same thing. Don't
I'm
worry.
still on the host we SSH'd into, not on my Kali. This is what gets a bit confusing about like. Also, Control-Shift-T to open up a new tab in the terminal in Kali, if you're following along at home. Right. Anyway, so I created this folder earlier, and what we're going to do is we're going to use search exploit. We're going to look for serve view. So search exploit just is a command line interface that'll pull stuff up from exploit DB. Scary that something like exploit DB exists, but at the same time, it's kind of one of those things where you have to go, well, if it didn't exist, a lot of good people wouldn't know how to deal with stuff either. But many, I guess, proof of concepts of vulnerabilities there. So it's a double-edged sword. Okay, so we've got a bunch of different vulnerabilities. Most of these don't look particularly useful, especially based on what was our version again? 15.16.25. So 15.16 is probably important because every version less than 15.1.7, local privilege escalation. That's intriguing. So that falls into our version range that we're looking for, and it's the product that we're looking for. So this is literally just a text search of exploit DB. So whatever you type
And
in
also, it's the goal we're hoping to achieve. So we already have local access to the box. So local privesc is basically what we're looking at doing next.
Yeah.
Bye, Moral. Thanks for the raid and everything.
Cheers, man. So a lot of these, like remote buffer overflows, are more about the web interface and stuff that we know aren't running at the moment, because I think doing a PS, this isn't running. Remote denial of services, not particularly useful for what we want to do. And some of these are authenticated, and we're not going to be authenticated. And this one in particular requires you to be on Windows. That's also ancient. I'm guessing 2.5 is from a long time ago. So anyway, we've got local privesc is probably the one we want. So we're going to go search, not setup, search exploit and then -m for mirror, which will download our particular thing. And looking over here, it's 47009C. Actually, this might actually... No, they're not local copies. Is it a local database?
They are local copies. That's something that I found out when I was doing this.
I always just assumed it just pulled it straight off the web, but yeah.
No, it's all local because you update it locally as just a database.
Can you imagine if you installed like McAfee, the Linux agent from McAfee, it'd bloody have a seizure.
It'd be amazing.
Like,
it's funny. I tried this in WSL because you know how you can get a Kali instance in WSL, and it did not like it. Windows freaked out.
The only one that probably wouldn't would be CrowdStrike, because CrowdStrike doesn't actually scan files; it just looks for suspicious behavior, which is certainly a different way to do things. So let's just have a quick look at what we've mirrored, what we've got. So it's in C. Vulnargs. So all it's doing is it's trying to execute the process. If it's successful, we won't get to here. Yes, because we would have just successfully compromised the app. This is Vulnargs. So it'll do an ID and echo this. Oh, so it's just, it's shelling out, obviously. binsh prepare installation. It's not even a buffer overflow. It's just yet an argument on a sticky bit binary. So I don't even know if it's meant to have the sticky bit. They might have added it. But you got to look out for this arbitrary. There's tons of commands that allow for arbitrary code execution because I'll be like, oh, just run this script at the same time. So that's obviously what's going on here. It's pretty straightforward. Why it's a C bit of code rather than a bash script or anything else, I guess. I mean, we could probably run this ourselves if we really wanted to, but we'll go with the proof of concept. So quickly, we'll just go GCC 4709 and it'll be echo, and we'll just call it exploit. And we should have, yep, exploit. If I've done that properly. And then we need to get this over to our box to run it. Pretty straightforward. We're going to use SCP, which isn't the secure, contain, protect kind of mythos, if you know your online culture. If not, too bad. Right, it's transferring files. So in our write-up, we actually just send the C file over and compile it on the host because GCC exists on the host because, again, people leave that sort of stuff on production servers. But I compiled it locally and I'll send it across instead. So we want to do love at target. I wonder if love is also a reference to, was it Herbert Love from Arrested Development? Season 4, I think. Anyway, love at target and let's exploit is the name of the file. And we want to put it in temp. A nice out of the way place. If I've done that correctly, it should freak out because this particular cell session does not have that variable set. So we'll just do that instead. And we'll just grab the password again. And it should be copied. And if we go back and we ls/temp, there's exploit. So who am I? We're root. And go root.txt. Given this isn't a hacker box, it's probably not that important. So there we go. Done. Ian, was it like 40 minutes? That includes all my rambling and my making mistakes.
Easy.
Easy peasy. So running back through it, we had a web app. The actual election app had not much to do with anything we were doing other than it gave us the logs to get the password and sorry, mental blank. Yeah, and that card.php file. So mostly all we did initially is just a lot of go bustering, find card.php that has creds that gets us into the admin portal on for the election app. And from there, we go and view the logs, and those logs have a password in it. Probably set up that way by the CTF author, but that's fine. You know, you kind of got to have this stuff somewhere. From there, we can SSH straight in. We try and look around for all of the more straightforward escalations that tend to exist. So having sudo access or something obviously sudo bitted, or looking around for scripts that might be run by admin but you've got write access to, or any number of other things you can do to abuse things. And we find this serve you app, and then we find an exploit for that, which looks like it's just the setup function takes an argument. So if you're installing this and this thing was sticky bitted to run as root, if that's by design, I'm not sure, you'd probably want to set the permissions on this directory so that only authorized users can run it, because you can run whatever you want from the looks of it. It's not actually a fancy exploit. It's not a buffer overflow. It's just a parameter taken by the servview binary, which, geez, what else have we seen that inject?
Yeah, that's pretty bad. Hey.
I mean, it shows up in other things. I'm trying to think of one. There was it not OpenSSL? There was one of those kinds of things that like have a run this arbitrary script at the same time. And from there, and it was to do with the cron job. And so you loaded in a different script and you got you got control.
Yeah, well, that was a really old one that we did. I can't
Yeah,
remember
that was
now.
back in the Hack the Box days. I don't know which
But
one it was.
yeah, that's pretty embarrassing for
Yeah.
like a company like
Oh,
SolarWinds to have something like that in a binary.
actually, I mean, let's be honest. This is me hopping back on my soapbox and having a rant. What big IT conglomerate doesn't have stupid shit like this all
Just
through their apps?
easy admin
Yeah,
outs or
it's
something.
all
Yeah,
easy admin outs or legacy apps that are from 20 or 30 years ago now that they just never fixed this stuff and never removed it. And because they assume, that like, we were actually, in a work discussion, we were talking the other day about how most firewalls don't support secure syslog or like what's it called, syslog NX or NT NX. I
yeah,
forget what it is, but it's basically old school syslog, zero encryption and zero support for it. And this has encryption, but most networking equipment doesn't support that because they're probably like firewall guys who go, but it's in an isolated network. Who's going to be able to access it? Um, so you've got all of those attitudes still through the industry. But if you put it on your internal network, it'll be fine. But as we're finding, as people move to the cloud, you don't have an internal network anymore, and it's really you're just one misconfiguration away from everything being open.
that's it. And if you want to send those syslogs somewhere
Yeah,
to in the cloud to do like a cloud SIEM or anything like that, then you
yeah.
suddenly want them to be encrypted.
And then as whoever they are, whether they're Russians, Ukrainians, whatever, keep showing us your precious internal network isn't as secure as you think it is. This stuff just becomes more and more of a liability to keep around. Um, still very, very useful, but at the same time, like, if SolarWinds got done again, like, I wonder how long they'd stay in business for. Not
Yeah, there's a
suggesting, not suggest anyone have a go at them because, as we should always finish off, we always say like the point of this isn't to teach you how to just hack to have fun. I mean, you can have fun where it's legal and you've got permission, or you're doing it all on your own equipment with your own stuff. You've downloaded VMs, but don't. It's not cool to go hacking other people's stuff without their permission.
Yeah,
Um,
so that's why we do it. We download deliberately vulnerable VMs that are designed for practice rather than going out and hacking actual
yeah, no,
servers running ServU or SolarWinds or anything like that.
yeah. It's good
I mean,
education. It's good to show people how straightforward a lot of this stuff is. I mean, Jake's probably Jake is far more experienced than I am at doing this sort of thing. Um, and we're probably not even as good as, a nation state hacker or a cyber criminal who's making a lot of money from it. And so he's got a lot of advanced skills in this area. And we have relative ease in doing this. And so you go, man, if a bunch of ne'er-do-wells from Australia don't have much trouble doing this, what does someone who actually is intent on getting you, like, what can they do? And,
And that's it. Especially if by default ServU does have the sticky bit, then that kind of stuff, once you know that it's there, you saw how easy it is to kind of exploit. So
yeah, I mean, you do see that in hacks where someone will burn their 0 day. So it might be a nation state or a particular high, like criminal group that found something, a vulnerability in something, and they'll keep a hold of it and maybe use it for a while, and then maybe they've used it to get what they want to get out of it, and so they burn it. They just make it public, or it just leaks. Someone in the group's careless, leaves something on a server, and in that period of it being burnt, like a whole lot of places will get hit. Um, just in the gap between disclosure and patching. And then, was it Patrick Gray on Risky Biz said this was years ago? He said, it's not the 0 days that are the problem, it's the 900 days. So people who just never patch stuff, which is, it's a massive logistical problem because we have these big, complicated IT environments that where you go, patch this. Well, to patch that, I've got to turn this off. But if I turn that off, that impacts these 15 other services. And that means our customers can't buy stuff. That means we're not making money. Every minute we're not making money, the investors get disappointed. And so therefore, we're not patching. which means you need to then architect your apps in a way where you can patch the components without any impact. But we're going back, again, 10, 15, 20 years worth of IT legacy architecture that makes it very difficult to do that, because you have to rip it all out and rebuild it from scratch. And that costs a lot of money. And again, the choice between developing functionality that directly makes you money versus spending money to protect your company, which is at the end of the day what InfoSec is, right? We go, sure, you could spend $1 to make another dollar, or to make $2, but at some point you're going to be sitting on enough money that you need to spend $1 to protect the $10,000 you have. And
Hey, Grub.
yeah, it's grub.
Just in time for us to finish.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it is an embarrassingly easy exploit. I'm
Yeah.
hoping that what it is it's engineered by the CTF audit, the CTF author, but it might not be. I mean,
Yeah,
they might
like I've
have
never
gone.
actually tried to install
Yeah,
this myself or anything, so we don't know if
this is why
that's by design or if it's the
but this,
CTF design.
but this is why like Vim and the MySQL client and a bunch of others, you can give them the sticky bit, but they do nothing with it. So again, in the code, the app has to do a set UID and set GID call to the kernel to change it to root. And if the sticky bit's set, the kernel will go, yep, you can have that done. But Vim and I think the MySQL client, a bunch of others that happily let you shell out and run commands in the middle of being in them, they just ignore sticky bits. They just don't care. So you can't use this to abuse. You can't set it on those to abuse them. But there's probably older versions of VI that I think you can, if you go back a ways.
Yeah, we have used it in the past in some of the hack the box machines as a way to escalate to root, some of the older ones.
DUCTF.
I don't think so, only
Down under
because
CTF.
we're still getting back into it after like a year and a half off.
Yeah, we've been pretty, I don't know, lockdown blues you could call it, where we just kind of 9 days, 23 hours. Yeah. I mean, maybe. Cyber CX. They're one of the sponsors. There's some choice jokes about the pronunciation of that company's name.
Yes.
Which
That's a great name.
Yeah. Anyway, maybe have a look at it. But yeah, we're this is why we're back to doing a bit more basic. Stuff again, because it's been the better part of a year, and for the last year my current client's mostly been doing like architecture and paperwork and stuff like that, not so much hands-on. So but I don't
nice.
know.
That's awesome.
Let's have a look at it. Oh, nice. Yeah, we'll have a look. I mean, what's the harm in registering and then losing? It doesn't really matter. Here's a few teams. University of Adelaide, Swinburne, ANU, Hosent, Taiwan. Oh, there's one group that says they're from North Korea. Classy.
Nice.
Nice. Sorry, you can't see anything because I've got this open in a web browser on my actual OS, not in Kali. And then we should probably call it for the night.
Well, one thing I'll just mention as well is, like, as we touched on before, not doing this to hack people and be a nuisance. There are some online bug bounty programs where companies actively sort of allow you to join and hack them, I guess, for monetary benefits. Bug Crowd and I think it's HackerOne have them. They often
Definitely
list.
know that your target is on those platforms
Yes.
before you go and try and hack them.
Yes, definitely go to one of those platforms, check that the company has it. They'll often list what's in scope and what's out of scope,
Well, and
how to report to them, all
well,
that. Yeah,
and
it's
some of them do run private schemes. So even though they might use BugCrowd, you've got to be invited into their specific pool of people who can test them. So got to watch out for that as well. But there's tons of stuff on BugCrowd that anyone can go hunting around for.
Yeah, we've got a third guy now.
Oh, wait
Yep.
a second.
This is Mark. He's been helping us out with doing our write-ups and helping us with the boxes and things like that.
To be eligible for the top 3 prizes, you must have a team that consists of Australian tertiary school students or secondary school students, so uni students.
does it have to be wholly students, or can it be like 3 people plus random
Well,
students?
the fact that it says tertiary school students would be anyone who's but I guess we'd be doing it for fun, right? The whole point is
Yeah.
that these
Yeah.
are more designed to enable uni students to get into stuff and get exposure to things that, for us, I mean, we work for a company, we can. Maybe swinging DEF CON tickets aren't massive, but I've been to conferences and stuff like that, and work will pay for it if you
Yep.
can justify it. It's not like it's a pinata, but you go, I think this will help, and they go, sure, done. Anyway, on that note, we are done for the day. Yes, there. Oh, of course, we just talked about there being a third guy.
Yeah.
All right, thanks everyone.
But yeah, thanks for coming. We'll be back next week.
Yes.
So hope to see you then. Grub.
7 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard. Oh, I would
And a
like.
KiwiCon.
I would like
That'd
to
be
go to.
amazing.
I would like to go to KiwiCon at some point.
Are we allowed to travel to New Zealand yet?
I don't think so, unless you want to spend a few weeks in
No, yeah.
quarantine.
For context, do you still have? Were you a New Zealand citizen, Mark? Because I was.
Yes.
I am. So
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any special. Oh no, I don't think there's any special considerations for citizens to go to New Zealand. It's like the same if you're in Australia. No, wasn't at B-Sides either. One of the guys from the company we work for went, but by the time I realise there's a conference on, it's like there's no point in booking because it's sold out. So I need to get better at planning.
Yeah, I'm really bad at knowing when conferences are going to happen.
Yeah, I normally keep an eye on them, but
I
with
watched the
travel this year, it's been hard.
I don't know, I watched the talks afterwards, but yeah, I think if there's one thing lockdown has taught me, quarantine, hotel quarantine. There's one thing lockdown's taught me: it's take opportunities to go and travel. So,
When is KiwiCon? November.
Yeah, first, second week of November, sometime around then.
first, second,
That'd be fun to go to, but we'd have to see if we're allowed to travel.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen this year.
Yeah.
No, I think unless it's online, but we should go.
I think they'll have it online as well, but it's more the travel this year will be probably.
I don't know. Wellington's where I grew up, so I always enjoy a visit to Wellington.
Did they make the CTF public? Maybe we could do that as one of our streams as well.
I don't know. If you have ideas for what we could stream, we'll happily take ideas too. Anyway, thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully you enjoyed the loose, slightly unprepared vibes. That's just the value we bring to the table. Hey, look, not everyone fully knows what they're doing all the time. Keep it real.
See ya.